Welcome back, folks. This is part number 3 to our discussion today on the fundamental upset recovery course development building blocks. And so far, just as a reminder, we've talked about the importance of academics. We talked about the lesser known concept of containing the startle factor and how important that is. In this next discussion, we're going to call a planned approach to recovery. A planned approach to recovery. And that is part and parcel with containing the startle factor. Very often, if you go through a training program or maybe an exposure program in a simulator where you're in there for 10 minutes, half an hour, even an hour, and you can sit and you can analyze and being shown the tools to use in an upset recovery situation. If your nose is high, for example, well, there's a couple things we can do. We can unload, we can make a power decision, we can roll to reduce, get the lift vector down. I want to tell you that's great training. It's good awareness to have that. What we have found almost in every situation, there are rare exceptions, okay? So I would say in 99% of pilots who have not had formal aerobatic training, I mean that's professional training and used it extensively, you get into these situations and due to that startle factor that I talked about previously, due to that mental shutting down of your brain, is that we have found that pilots are unable to figure out what to do. They just start doing something, flicking switches, doing things on the controls, all the wrong things. So once we learn how to contain the startle factor, we have to have a planned approach of how do we get out of this situation? How do we resolve the upset? How do I do it? Because if you need to get there and analyze to figure out which tool to use and when and bring together the proper techniques and the proper order to effective recovery, that's a lot of demand, and in our opinion, too much demand for you in a situation that needs immediate correct action right now. Now, the intent of this video is not to promote the APS method of teaching upset recovery training. What we use is a technique called the all-attitude upset recovery checklist. And I'm using it as an example of a planned approach. It minimizes the requirement for the pilot to make very, very complex decisions in an upset. Remember our 150 IQ I talked about last time is now down to 75. What we need to have is a procedure that we can pull out, that we have memorized as a tool that's ready right now, that takes the proper steps in the proper order to effective recovery consistently and effectively in most every situation. And that's exactly what the all-attitude upset recovery technique is that we teach in our program. It's a checklist approach or a planned approach to upset recovery. And what it does, it allows you to take effective action now. We have articles on the all-attitude upset recovery checklist. We talk about the planned approach. I'll tell you right now, even if you're an expert in upset recovery and you read that article, you're not going to get the essence necessarily of how that applies in a real situation. It takes expert instruction from instructors very familiar with that technique and how to apply it, because it is a generalized technique yet a very specific technique. It is designed for use that is unique in any airplane. In other words, it expects you to have knowledge of your airplane that will help you make decisions, because the approach is just, this is the right parameter to consider in the right order. What you do on that step is based on the situation, based on your knowledge of the airplane, based on your knowledge of what's happening in that upset. In our opinion, that's the most you can think about. What led us to that planned approach to recovery is from NASA research, where they were looking at how test pilots, for example, were responding in spin recovery, stall spin recovery situations. And they found a few things. And one of them is that the human brain, our mental capacity in an emergency, in a high-stress situation, is only able to effectively solve one problem at a time. The checklist procedure, the all-attitude upset recovery, does that. It does one parameter at a time. Solve that one. When it's done, move to the next one. When that one's solved, move to the next one. And if you follow a planned approach at the end of it, you're recovered and you're climbing and away from the ground. It is far better to do the proper steps slowly than react and do even one thing wrong. It can make a situation much, much worse. And with proper training, though, with an understanding of how to apply a planned approach to recovery, you can be very effective. And we're going to talk about some other techniques for how to do that a little bit later, because this is all going to come together. These are core components of an effective recovery program. So, where are we at right now? We talked about the critical importance of academics and the right kind of academics taught by experts. The next step was containing the startle factor, the key of the training to resolution. The key portal to go through is containing the startle factor. Implementing the recovery is what I'm talking about on this video, and that's a planned approach to upset recovery, having a method that will keep you organized even when you're mentally incapacitated or challenged in a situation that is life-threatening, and get you out of it each and every time, and that you apply it properly in most situations. That's really, really important. And of course, it develops some confidence, but more than confidence, it develops a healthy respect and knowledge of these situations and an intimate understanding of how bad they can get, so you can recognize and avoid these scenarios before they ever happen in the first place. Remember, the focus of any upset recovery program, although recovery is part of it, the emphasis really needs to come down on recognition and avoidance. But should you not catch it in time, what do you need to do in a simple, effective approach to recover the airplane right now? And that's exactly what a planned approach does. I hope that helps, and I hope that's starting to fill in the picture of a full upset recovery program and its objectives.